Thanks for coming here to the Word on the Street. I am your moist host, Vince. That's regrettable. And with me, I've got my Gray's host, Josh. Every week, we'll be choosing one of 28 words, which were generated from the puzzle word game Wordle, and talking about whatever the hell we can based on those. Today, we're choosing words from April 24th to April 30th, which you can see on our Instagram or Twitter at Word on the Street. Let's get into the episode. And Josh is starting this week, so let's hear from you. Josh, what's your word?
Well, Vince, my word today is going to be sight. When I was first looking through the list, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to pick. And, you kind of scan through the list, or at least this is how I pick my topics, and just kind of do word association and what I think I can associate with them. And, sight made me think of vision or future. And I found myself thinking about, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? We're hitting our older side of the age, teeter-totter now, so it's like, where do we see ourselves from now? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you have a differentiating thing in each one of those increments?
For me, not particularly. I've always had a fairly simple outlook. So I'm pretty happy with where I am now. 5, 10, 15 years down the road, I hope to be kind of just coasting.
Yeah.
That's me. I know I'm not typical in that.
No, I mean, I think that's something everybody wants. I mean, they might not think of it as that word, but they want to just, be secure and stable and not have to worry about anything.
Yeah, that's definitely a better way to put it rather than coasting, because that's not there's not a positive connotation to that word.
All I can think about is when you say coast is God, what's that? Is it Lupe Fiasco? No, it's Kid Cudi. The push skate song. I don't know if you know which one I'm talking about.
Not that particular one, no.
But it just that's the vibe it gives me, just like a push skate chill kind of vibe. That's what coast makes me think of.
Yeah.
I just want to coast along. But
yep.
Yeah, I mean that's.
What about you? Are you looking 10, 15 years down the road?
Yes, and no. I mean there's things that again, I'm happy with certain aspects of where I am, and there's definitely things that I want for myself that I don't have currently. But 10 years down the road, I would love in the next 5 years for me to take my full-time job now and either, add to it by having my own side business as well, doing my profession, or switching over to doing it full-time, for myself, and not have to have another boss.
Yeah.
I think that I'm of the mindset that I feel like I have a pretty entrepreneurial mind. So it's definitely
you've really made a place for yourself in every company that you've worked for, and the work that you do right now, you can do it, as a boss yourself. It's if you have a small client list, you'll probably, and you don't have anybody to filter it through, you'll probably make just as much as you do now.
Yeah, I mean the thing is you just have
to let your boss hear that.
Right. Well, I mean you just have to be willing to take the leap. That's the toughest part. And I think it's like that no matter what your industry you're going into as an entrepreneur, but you're in control of your next paycheck.
Yeah.
If you can't, right now it doesn't matter for me if we don't get more clients, or if the clients that we do have aren't putting in work orders for more work, I get my paycheck.
Yeah.
I have kind of what you were talking about. I have that coast ability where I'm gonna get paid no matter what.
Yeah, but there's a big difference between being like a workaday schmuck like me and somebody who actually runs their own business like you're hoping to be. There's a big gap there.
I think I just have such a strong mindset. I guess I don't know if that's the correct way to phrase it, but because I'm not an abrasive person, but I guess I'm very clear. I have very clear goals in my mind, and I always pick out a pretty well defined map of how to get to those goals.
You have a very clear vision of what you want to be doing wherever you are. it's how you've carved out this sort of niche that you have in every job that you've had. You know, why people, when we worked at the used video game store, would call you the golden boy, because you had a very clear vision of what you wanted that store to be, and you took steps to make it that way.
Well, yeah, I think I find flaws in things to try to make better. I take pride in my work, no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to make things better in every way possible if I can control the outcome. Because if my name's attached to it, I care. So I think that in itself makes me being my own boss, it would be a good thing. It's just being able to be in that position where you can say, okay, I'm good for 6 months. Let's roll the dice and see if we can make it happen. It's also harder and harder, I feel like, to get clients depending on your ability to talk to people of different age groups. Most people our age and younger, especially the younger crowd that are owning businesses, they understand social media, and most of them can watch YouTube and figure out how to place digital ads and stuff. So they're not necessarily looking for somebody to do them for them as much so as, you know, back in the day. If you wanted a billboard for your business, you'd contact a media agency and they would make it, and they would also be the ones that did the media placement for you. Whereas like now you do the media placement yourself.
What's funny is I get what you're saying. I think it's funny that I think that the younger people who are smart realize that it's useful to have somebody who can do that, even though they probably can if they put enough time into it.
Well, it comes down to it's funny we talk about this. I had a client at work that does like financial service stuff. So, you know, talking about stocks and investing and those kind of things. And, you know, it's kind of the same thing I was talking with them about is, you know, people my age or our age and younger, they hear about like investing with Cash App and Stash and all these apps and things that they can do there. So like, what would make us want to go to a financial advisor? You know, it's like, how do you make yourself still relevant? And you have to have a voice to make them want to go there. And realistically, what it comes down to is, and this is almost for every industry and service, is people that especially the finance one, I feel like this applies a lot for them. The people generally, unless they were born into it, that have that kind of extra money to invest in stocks are pretty intelligent, or at least on the higher end of the curve. They could learn it themselves. To them, their time is more valuable than the money, so they will just pay somebody else to do it. So I think that's kind of the same thing where, you know, like you said, people that realize that it's not so much that they realize that they need it, it's they realize that they could make more money having the time that they would spend figuring it out by paying somebody else to do it and using that time to make more money anyway.
Yeah. Personally, I think that's a poor example of that, because like financial in particular there's a lot of snake oil in that.
Oh, definitely.
But like I don't know, I'm maybe what you're saying is that younger people don't get the value in it, but me as somebody who has had a little bit of perspective on it, understands the value in somebody who is versed in marketing versus somebody who is versed in the financial market, because
there's a change in desire. So I think before like the internet and stuff, you were paying somebody like that for access, and now you're paying for advice.
Okay. Yep.
And I think people that understand
the advice is much less valuable.
Yep.
So I get that.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's kind of where I want to be, where I see myself doing it, is like hopefully having some sort of my own business or something, at least part-time doing myself.
Yeah,
probably sure. With my cousin is you know, we tend to do those things together. We balance each other very well. I guess here's another question leading the same way. Are you now where you thought you'd be 10 years ago? You know, we're 32, or I'm 32 and you're about to be.
Yeah, that's right.
Thinking back at 22, are you where you would where you thought you'd be 10 years from that point?
Specifically, or like as an idea?
As an idea.
As an idea, yeah, for sure. Specifically, no, but at 22, you know, I was in college, and you know, a couple of years into college, figuring out what I really wanted to do and figuring out what I wanted out of life in general. And I figured out at that time that what I wanted was just basically stability. I'm not a very ambitious person, and I don't think of that word as having a positive or negative connotation.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that people have, you know. Ambition has a lot of positives and negatives that come along with it. It has a lot of success possibility, but it also has a lot of anxiety and strife.
I would say that I am probably on that ambitious cycle where
Yeah.
I go for things, but at the same time, yeah, you're right. It does create a lot
Yeah.
of stress and anxiety, and
Yep.
you're
So yeah,
constantly chasing the wheel of
Yep.
trying to be better.
Yeah. I am much less ambitious. I think at 22 I was realizing that what I wanted out of life was just stability. I kind of got at that point that I didn't want my job to be my passion.
Yeah.
I wanted my job to be something that allowed me to do my passion,
It's a really good way of looking at it.
So I don't know. That's where I'm at with that. I'm not. It's not specifically where I wanted to be. I was thinking of myself. As specifically, I was thinking like a surveyor, somebody who goes out and surveys lands, makes maps.
Yeah.
A little bit more creative than what I'm doing. But honestly, what I'm doing now, when I look back, when I look at the career trajectories of the two different industries that I was considering at the time,
this definitely fits your demeanor more.
Yeah, I said it earlier. I'm basically a workaday schmuck. I can clock in, clock out, but it's a union job. I know that I'm secure,
Yeah.
and I'm just able to go along with it. And I can allow what I do to allow me to do what I want to do outside of work.
Yeah, I think that's the goal that everybody has. It's just different paths to get there. So for me, it's like I struggle, feel like, with what you're talking about. It's hard for me not to allow work to become my main focus.
Yeah, it's tough.
But it's also bad too. So like you said, we worked at the video game store, and like I definitely started to resent video games and have a different relationship with that medium, working in it. I feel like it took away some of my passion and enjoyment dealing with some of the negative aspects of working at a store like that.
When I've talked to younger people, I've sort of tried to give them the perspective that I think should have been given to us when we were that age, which is like, high school prepares you for a broad amount of topics, right? But not very deep. And you should use that to figure out what you're passionate in, right? Take like 3 things that you're passionate in and do the second or third most desirable thing as a career.
Yeah.
You don't want to take the thing that you're most passionate in and make it a career, because then it'll end up just becoming a job and you'll end up resenting it, and it'll destroy a little bit of your passion. Probably not all of it. You have some things to fall back on if you're able to identify 2 or 3 things. But yeah, I've always thought that maxim, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. It's a little bit misleading.
Yeah, definitely is. Although I will say that this is what I do now is my passion. I mean, hence the fourth.
Yeah.
I took like you said, I'm very goal and plan oriented. So while everyone else was doing your general college or general high school classes and stuff, like I had already, by the time I was done, had an internship in the field completed and had some training, some technical training in that field, and then went straight into school for it. But I didn't actually get into the field like work wise until a few years ago. But I feel like it's also a little bit different, being that it changes every day, kind of, depending on what I need to make, or, what the client needs, who they are, how I would attack demographics. So I feel like, how do I put it? Not dealing with the general population. If I had to deal with like the general public and do what I'm doing, I feel like it would burn me out way faster, because I think that's what got to me with the video game store, was like dealing with the general public and like them seeing the games, like that industry, differently than me, and not having the same kind of passion for it. Me started to weigh on me. Like I didn't want to talk about it all the time. I was expected to have a certain level of enthusiasm and knowledge of those, and eventually it became so much that like I just didn't care anymore. Whereas
Okay,
like
yeah.
this I haven't, at least not yet. I haven't experienced it.
I can get that. I can get that.
I think that's gonna lead into, what do you, looking forward, into the future, what do you think our greatest achievement and downfall as a society will be in the next 30 years?
Oh boy.
Is there a trajectory or something that you see happening?
Okay, if I'm being honest, I you put this on the dock before I did, and I'm a little scared of it.
Of the question?
Of just the whole trajectory of this question. Here's the thing: is I think about this type of thing a lot.
Yeah.
I'm that type of person that sort of lives in my head. But I discourse about this thing basically zero amount. So I don't know what thoughts that I've come up with in my head that are going to be hot takes, and I am actually absolutely terrified of someone who's just in their feelings that day, taking exception to something that I say and coming at me about it.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't have a problem speaking of, for me, I think that the push into what we're calling the metaverse is gonna both be positive and negative, but
Sure.
I don't necessarily think that really allowing people to completely, I mean, we've seen what games like Second Life and things have done to people, and that's nowhere near as connective as what they're planning with the metaverse. And
Yeah, sure.
I think we could be on a weird trajectory. Like, people are gonna lose themselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're gonna see
It's
even
possible.
more crazy people like falling in love with people online that they've never met before. I feel like the stalkers and stuff are gonna start going even more through the roof. Maybe not physically, but like it's like,
right.
I feel like it's going to start nurturing these bonds even more, where people are going to start becoming even more infatuated with each other.
Yeah.
Because you're basically living a whole life inside of this, which, I mean, we kind of are now when you consider a lot of people, their lives are social media. Like, they're trying to keep up with each other by impressing each other, obviously
we're already there.
Yeah. I just don't think to the point where when people are hanging out in rooms with headsets on, virtually sitting there as their character, seeing the room as if they're there.
Nah, I think we're already there.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think we're already there.
Maybe
my answer to this is going to be a lot of like dystopian literature talk.
Okay.
So I'll start off with what you're talking about is like a very far down the line thing, like, Ready Player One, where people are just engulfed in this sort of toxic nostalgia.
Yeah.
But there's steps along the way. Brave New World is basically the step that we're at now, where everybody is sort of seeing good things all the time. And maybe this has been broken in the past couple years, but essentially people are seeing the best parts of everybody's lives.
Yeah.
And it creates a massive amount of envy and jealousy. That's where we're at now. So I started thinking of this. You put this question in the doc, and it really spiraled me a little bit for the past day or two, because I started thinking greatest achievement and downfall. And I don't see this as a political issue, but the obvious answer to this question is global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it. But honestly, it's truly not a political issue.
No.
So what creates the political issue that we see in it? And it's that 24/7 news drip that we get. And what causes that? And it's like, I worked my way backwards to what I think the real crux of this issue is. And it's that, this actually will be a hot take, but have you ever heard of the book Atlas Shrugged?
I've heard of it, but I haven't read any of it.
Don't read it. It is considered this like massive like libertarian manifesto about the virtuous capitalists who are seeing the real world versus the bleeding heart liberals who are really like feeling their ways through lives.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a very interesting contrast to the world of today, which is like there's people out there who are actually bringing up real numbers and bringing up real issues. And then there are people who are just feeling their ways through lives, and those roles feel reversed from the book.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming at, is that people are just so in their feelings. And there's the people who are on social media who are constantly like, facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah.
And then immediately post about their feelings versus the facts.
Yeah, right afterwards. Yeah.
Without getting to too much specifics, I think that is the biggest issue that we have going forward, is people not being able to see the forest through the trees. Whatever their stance on an issue is, not being able to take a step back and see what is actually going on versus what they want to think.
Yeah. Yeah. That is one thing I would say that is kind of scary in like in the day and age where we have more and more access to information and the ability to come to conclusions based on factual data stuff. People's unwillingness to change opinion seems to be at an all-time high. No matter no matter what you can show them, and that also just could be bad because like I am of the complete logical way of thinking for the most part. So for me to not see it in that light is difficult. And I have been trying to be more, I guess, open to, somebody might see it not in the same logical way that I do, and I'm okay with that, and I can see why they will. But it's tough for me to not be like, hey, it's right in front of your face.
It's the last piece of dystopian fiction that I'll bring up is Brand New World.
Let's pause here for a second. This is future Vince, just bringing up that, I know that I already brought this book up earlier in the episode. And also just to correct myself 2 or 3 times here, it's called Brave New World, not Brand New World. And with that, I will go ahead and resume the episode.
There's a new show on it, so if anybody's seen that, if anybody's listened to this, just disregard that because the book is an entirely different thing. It's Brand New World is what people bring up in contrast to like 1984. 1984 is very like shut down thought.
Yeah.
Control what people are thinking. But Brand New World is really about just make sure that people are feeling nice things all the time. And that's really the world that it feels like we're living in.
Yeah.
Negative things happen all the time, one way or the other, whatever your stance is on whatever. Negative things are happening. But you go on that Facebook, you go on that Instagram, and you doom scroll for half an hour. Just feel a little better. These people seem fine, is what you think.
You know what? I guess so. It's kind of like a dual layer thing, though, because I feel like if you're scrolling just through the cover of those things, that's how it seems. But if you click on any single post, it is always just a literal war, no matter what the post is about. It is just people arguing about the sky is blue. No, it's not.
It's always a little different than what you see. Literally every time I see one of those feel-good stories that people post about, I'm this year's old and I have saved $500,000 cash.
Yeah.
And then I love clicking on those particular links because then it'll halfway down the article, it'll say, I cut back on my coffee and I didn't buy avocado toast, and also my parents paid for $75,000 worth of my college.
I was actually just watching something. I think it was actually a TikTok, and it was a financial thing, and it was like, I'm sick of people telling everybody that the reason you're broke and the reason that you don't have any savings is because you're spending $5 a day on your Starbucks coffee. Like, yes, that can add up over time, but do you know how long that would take to compound into any big sum of money? Like, the $5 you spend a day on coffee to get yourself a little happy is not the crux of evil. Like, that is not what's stopping you from reaching your goals.
Yeah, that was the silver lining of the whole pandemic, is people being like, I've been making my own coffee for a year and I'm not a billionaire yet, so I don't know what's going wrong.
Yeah. Well, on a more positive note, why don't we hop into your word for the week and try to lighten things up a little bit. How sorry everyone, I had to dive us into a little bit of a...
No, it's all good. But I did decide to metagame this week a little bit. You posted this topic and I spiraled and I was like, okay, I need to pick a little bit lighter topic. So my word today is prone, and I will work my way into how I got to this topic from this word, but I will be talking about video games. So I want to start at the very beginning. Josh, do you remember what is the first video game you've ever played?
Well, it's tough because I have my memory and then I have memories of what I was told, if that makes sense. So from my memory, the first thing that I would have played would have been the Game Boy. But my mom says that my brother had moved out before I was born, but he had an Atari.
Okay.
And he left it at my parents' house. He didn't take it with him. And my mom said that I used to play with that all the time and mess with it when I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
I don't have any recollection of it really. But once, I would say Game Boy would be my first, like, I'm sure I played other things like Tamagotchi, like little tiny games, stuff like that. But like my first first real gaming experience, I would say,
Was on the Game Boy.
Was on the Game Boy.
Do you remember the specific game or no?
It's Tetris, I believe.
Okay, sure.
It was one of my sister's friends, I believe, had it, and I played it like a little bit. It wasn't a ton, and then I was obsessed with Pokemon, obviously, as most people are where age were.
Everybody,
so my first gaming system or console was I got a yellow Pikachu Game Boy Color. And Pokemon Red, well, that was my Christmas present for one year. And actually, I was so sad because I got through all my presents except for like my stocking, and I didn't have it. And at the bottom of my stocking, there was a box with a note in it that said, "Go check the dryer." And there was a box inside of there, and inside of 2 more boxes inside of that box was the Game Boy Color and Pokemon Red, and I played the absolute shit out of those.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you almost don't remember a specific game, because I'm kind of the same way. Like, I remember where I played video games first. It was in my grandfather's house. For thinking back on it, I don't know why. For some reason, he had a Nintendo, an NES.
Maybe your brother?
We played I don't know. I don't know why he had it. It was at his house. He got it for the grandkids.
Yeah.
And we had a pretty good collection of games for there, Legend of Zelda 1, Adventures of Link, California games, RBI baseball. So even though I don't remember the first,
it's all about that disc throw.
Yeah, bro. Hell yeah. It was impossible. It was impossible for somebody under 15. But it was a beautiful game.
That game will forever hold a place in my heart, and I had never played it until I played it at your brother's.
Oh yeah.
And I never forget talking to him, because this was at the point when you were at college and I was hanging out with your brother playing Call of Duty and eating Krispies. And we had talked about California games, and I happened to get a copy of it in it replay. And picked it up.
You were working a replay.
Yeah. And I brought it over there, and we were talking about disc throw and how it was impossible.
Yep.
And I caught the disc. I figured out that you had to run past it and then run back into the disc to catch it, and I caught it while I was there.
Yeah, man.
And it was just the world erupted.
Yeah, sure. He's remembering the game from when he was 15 years old.
Yeah.
It's impossible for somebody that age without fine motor skills, But so that RBI baseball, California games are some of my most crystallized early gaming moments. But how I really came to this word, what made me think of this word, is that, prone. That's, to remind you, that's my word. Prone, to me, I think of video games. I don't think I've seen that word before video games, before, hold whatever to crouch, hold whatever to prone. And then the first thing that came to mind is Metal Gear Solid 3, the end fight, where you have to basically lay down and very slowly crawl through that boss fight. For anybody who doesn't know, the End is a character. That's his name, the End. He was an elderly sniper. Canonically, he's 100 years old. He lived so long that he had moss that grew on him and inside of, which gave him the ability to do long stints without food or water. It's wild. I would highly suggest anybody who doesn't know the Metal Gear Solid series go watch any summary of Metal Gear Solid under 10 minutes, because it's fucking wild.
I don't even like Metal Gear. What are you talking about?
Of course you don't. What's the only thing that you're missing? Did you ever get the PSP Omnibus?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not missing very much at all.
No, I think I'm missing the collector's edition of Phantom Pain with the arm. That's the only thing I don't have currently for games. And there's other little odds and ends stuff that I don't have, but I do have 3 totes of Metal Gear Solid stuff in the closet that once I have more space will be back out on display.
Yeah, that'll be the day, because that collection is phenomenal.
You have stopped me from getting rid of it multiple times.
It's not worth it.
I know. It's very disheartening knowing that it's in the closet. It just sits there because I don't have the space to put it out. But
that moment that you're going to unpack it will make it all worth it.
It's
So
definitely
I
gotten
hope, yeah.
some enjoyment, especially like when I moved in. One of my roommates' coworkers came over and we were working on his computer, and I don't know
Yep.
how we got onto the subject, but we started talking about Metal Gear, and he was like, that was one of my favorite games, and I was like, ha, well, funny story. And I brought him back into my room, and I just opened my closet, and I start putting these totes on my bed, and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, just open them. And he opens them, and it's just all Metal Gear Solid games and
Oh,
books and
everything.
memorabilia, just anything that I could find and collect over the years.
Yeah. So that's the first thought that I settled on. But then I thought about this word a little bit more, and I thought about what is it? Modern Warfare 4? The sniping mission where
Call of
you're in
Duty
the
4
ghillie
Modern
suit.
Warfare,
Yeah.
when you're crawling underneath the cars
Yep.
through the grass and everything to get to the
Yep.
building for that sniper mission. Oh yeah.
So that's honestly how I got to this word. I thought of these two video game moments where you have to lay down and crawl very slowly, and it got me thinking about a lot of other memorable moments in video games. Like I have a lot of them, these memories that are crystallized in mind. I'll go through like a couple, and then we'll hear what you think, Josh, because well, I'm sure that you'll remember this one for me because you were there. But that moment in Dark Souls, the original Dark Souls, where I walked through a door, I'm sitting there. This is what makes Dark Souls one of the best couch co-op games to do, is that I'm sitting there and Josh goes, wow, that's a really cool sword. You should go up and try to get it. I walk up to the sword, and then this giant wolf jumps over the tombstone that's there, picks up the sword, and just slaps me with it. And Dark Souls has a couple of moments like that. Sif, who is that boss, it's a wolf that holds it's a giant wolf that holds a giant sword. And then that moment where you get picked up by the other giant animal, the crow, and get taken into Anor Londo, these giant set pieces, which are just crystallized in my memory. And then another Metal Gear Solid one. For some reason, Metal Gear Solid really sticks in my mind with these memorable moments. But Psycho Mantis,
I was
just
gonna
the
use
creepiness. Yeah. All right, so let's hear from you then. Start with Psycho Mantis.
that. Oh, I mean, Metal Gear Solid for PlayStation 1 will forever be cemented in my mind as one of, if not the best games ever created.
Mm-hmm.
It came out in a day and age where the internet was not what it is now. You weren't getting spoilers, and you couldn't look up how to do things unless you went and found a gaming hacks magazine at EB Games.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't finding your way through games. You had to figure out how to beat them. And I mean, it starts out with, even before Psycho Mantis, like looking on the back cover of the game and realizing that the Kodak number that you needed to talk to the person is printed on the physical packaging of the game. Like,
Yeah,
seeing
I forgot
that
about that.
it's just like crazy. And then you get into the Psycho Mantis fight, and you seemingly can't beat him. And I remember being like, what is going on? Like, why can't I not beat him? And it's just like, he talks about, for those who've never played it, about reading your mind. And it's just the way that they phrased the saving screens and stuff during it is like, we're now reading your memories. Made me think of like, oh man, maybe I need to move my ray card and controller over into the other like slot, like player 2. And sure enough, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Which is just like crazy to think of. Like, Hideo Kojima is such a mastermind for thinking of those things. And it's how many people don't know that there's an alternate possibility of when you're being tortured, that like, if you physically push the circle button fast enough, long enough, that you can get a different outcome.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's just so much enjoyment. I mean, I'm sure you could just tell by the way I'm talking about it. Like, there's just he embodies it perfectly. There was just nothing I've really played since that has just made me so happy and excited. I would say Dark Souls probably was one of the closest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it comes close.
Like the amount of joy you get from finally beating a boss, like the Four Kings, or after you've beaten Dark Souls a few times and you finally understand the game and the mechanics enough to, on your playthrough, to beat the first boss that you run into in the very beginning of the game, like to finally beat it with no weapon.
Yeah.
like just the amount of adrenaline and dopamine you get from completing those like
No, for
seemingly
sure.
impossible moments in video games.
That's what I've always told people about Dark Souls is, you're gonna bash your head against the wall for a while, or more modern Elden Ring, any From Software game,
Yeah.
Bloodborne. Same, you're gonna bash your head against the wall for a while, and you may want a difficulty setting, but the difficulty setting is how long you play it, because you're gonna get so comfortable with that game. You're gonna be able to kill that boss, and then it will be so rewarding.
It's kind of weird, but I've started to build this association in my head. From Software games, specifically, like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, I feel like are the only games not of the fighting genre that reward mechanical ability. Like, learning the mechanics of the game is what makes you better.
Okay.
And fighting games, obviously, that's a huge, that's how people get better. You learn iframes and things in moves like in Street Fighter, and where you have, extra space to play. You learn how to play in between the moves based on, hitboxes and regulation. And that's kind of the same thing in Dark Souls, understanding how to, like, really getting good at parrying in the original Dark Souls was like a complete game changer.
Yeah. I've heard a similar thing about why am I blanking all of a sudden? Robot dinosaur game.
Robot dinosaur game.
Yeah, robot dinosaur game. Forbidden West. What is the
Horizon?
Horizon.
Yeah.
My God. I've heard similar things about that game, like that it rewards this sort of technical prowess. Yeah. Where if you can, dial into the mechanics of the game, it's very rewarding. Unfortunately, I don't have a PlayStation console, so I haven't been able to play these games. But that's what I've heard about them. Are there any other like crystallizing memorable moments in your mind?
Yeah, and it's funny enough how the Dark Souls one involved me for you. The other one for me involves you. And it is Resistance: Fall of Man, and it is playing that on the PlayStation 3 for the first time in your brother's bedroom, like when he's not home, and we're just sitting there just in awe. Because I mean, when you think about the graphical capability in the jump between PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3, especially at that age in our life, like comprehension was just nowhere near where we're at now. Yeah. And I just remember being in awe, like just spending 15 minutes shooting at the glass on the ground and looking at it, and like watching it ripple and fracture as the bullets bounced off the water. Yeah, because that was the first game that we had played that had like fully destructible environments, right? Yeah. Not even fully. Like you could shoot a hole out of a wall, but it was amazing. Yep. Yeah, it was just that, and I had never seen anything done like that before, and it really pushed the limits of what we had seen in the video game at the time, or at least that's how it felt for me. And that'll always sit with me as like one of my favorite moments of just being like, oh my God, like this is getting really crazy. Yeah. It's really interesting. These days I play a lot more single player games than you. Yeah, I can't. I feel like I've had a lot more of these moments fairly recently. Do you have any of these moments like within the past 4 or 5 years? Like memorable moments within video games? Yeah, memorable moments where you've been playing a video game and just blown you away. I wouldn't say, maybe not in the last 4 or 5 years. I would say the last game that really blew me away, which is it's gonna be hilarious. I'm ready for it. Was Game Dev Story. Like that was the last like real single player, like has nothing to do with ever playing with anybody game that like hooked me. Yeah, like, man. Like I remember downloading it on my phone, and then the next thing I know, I'm in like year 10. It's 4 in the morning. And it's 4:45, and I have to be up at 6:30, and just screaming in my head, going, where did the time go? Yeah. But why did New Bonerton just take control of my brain? Yeah. That would be my last one, I would think. Yeah, I guess I have a lot more of these in recent years, because like I remember, I don't know what kicked me off on this, but I started playing a lot more single player games, and then just like a waterfall of these sort of things happened to me. I played The Witness. I talked about it in your design episode that you brought design to, but The Witness is such a striking game, and there's this it's not a spoiler for anybody who hasn't played The Witness yet,
yet or anything, but there's this moment where you realize that something bigger is happening in that game. And I remember being in this warehouse and looking up through these windows and seeing just like a set of eyes that were completely constructed from the environment outside of that building. And I started noticing it all around, faces, eyes, and then I realized that there's something bigger going on in this game. It opened up a whole nother level to that particular game. And I think those are the things that I'll really connect to, is when a game takes a major shift.
Yeah.
Even more recently is Outer Wilds, which takes several of those shifts. Every time you go to a new planet, it takes a shift. But what I want to go into next is, what are your, chill games? I started thinking about prone and how you are prone in video games, but what if you're prone outside of video games? What are some of your top, chill games that you don't need a whole lot of Twitch skills to do, but you can play laying down?
Well, for me, I can't really be laying down to play it, but I think you know the answer for me, and it is Pokemon Go.
Oh, yeah.
I've become recently, well, not recently, because I just came back from a 6-month hiatus from Pokemon Go. But before that 6-month hiatus, I played for a year straight. And that was kind of like my guilty pleasure, not pay attention, just mindlessly play a game. And I think it works for me because it still incentivizes social interaction. And I think that's probably what differentiates us the most in gaming. Like I play games to interact with other people at this point now.
Yeah.
Which I can honestly attribute, 1 to ADHD, but 2 to working at the video game store. Like working there, that's when I stopped playing single player games.
Yeah,
like
that's interesting.
But I played a ton of them, and I feel like I burned myself out because I wanted to know a little bit of everything for everything. So like I took pride in being able to recommend people games and tailor, my recommendations based on what they were into. But that made me have to. I just played a lot of different stuff, and I just stopped enjoying single player as much, and I'm just much more hyper competitive than you.
Yeah.
If there's the ability for me to compete, I'm going to.
Yeah, I'm not saying this to make you feel bad or anything, but honestly, the thing that kicked me off into playing single player games is our experience in Path of Exile.
Oh yeah.
I was playing with Josh here and our other friend Vinny, who is not me. Same name but different person, I swear. But Josh and him just moved on to a different game, and I was just really digging in, and it was something about that I'm really just like, I was really just like, I think I just want to play on my own. And then I put 80 hours into Stardew Valley.
Well, I think the biggest thing for that is we move at a different rate because we're at different points in life.
Yeah, like especially Vinny.
You have... And
if Vinny actually ends up listening to this podcast, love you, Vin.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, obviously you're married, you have house stuff, you have other hobbies and things that you're committed to, like, you're bowling and things like that. Whereas, like, we were able to play from the minute we got off work until we were done for the night.
Yeah, and there were some days where I couldn't play for a couple days.
Yeah, and it would just cause, I think that's what ended up causing us to, like, move on, is we had put in so much more time, which is why I like this. Like being able to do this, it's like it's not dictated by the amount of time we have to put into it. It's just show up,
by something
show up and have conversation.
Yeah, I know. I am really enjoying this. So is that the only Pokemon Go? Is that the only chill game that you have? I mean, I know that we're kind of playing PGA right now.
I play PGA. I play PGA a little bit with you.
But like, if
obviously,
down,
I mean,
if you had a stressful day at work, you sit down, you're like, I just want to relax with a video game that I'm good at. What are you playing?
I don't.
Okay.
Well, I will say, obviously, like, I mean, we play Wordle and QotS every day, obviously. So
sure.
Those are games that I enjoy and play. I do play.
That's hilarious because that's your idea of mobile gaming, and I am like much more into mobile gaming.
Yeah. I play Killer Sudoku.
Okay.
But that's more like, the bathroom break kind of game.
Yeah. Get into chess Sudoku. Chess Sudoku is so good.
But other than that, video games don't wind me. Actually, I was just talking about this with another friend. Video games don't wind me down. I don't play video games to wind down. It's just it's where I get my competitiveness out.
Yeah.
So like, if I want to wind down, I choose like movies or television or YouTube or Twitch, that style of medium to wind me down.
You gotta get back into single player games. I think that's the takeaway from this conversation. Something like, I don't know if you'll really be into it. I don't think I've ever seen you play something like this, but something like Slay the Spire. No, it's a sort of slow game. It's a roguelike, so there's not really huge stakes to it.
Yeah,
something like that.
I don't know. That's tough.
Sort of
the
thing
biggest thing is it's tough for me to enjoy single player now because it's honestly a design flaw in my brain. I do everything to try to be the best that I can. So playing video games and trying to become better at them is not relaxing.
Okay.
Like everything that I play, I try to be better at. So it's not relaxing for me. So like I can't become better at watching movies. So like that allows my brain to just shut off.
You could. I dare you to go down the
watch one with
every
each
frame. Every frame is a piece of art, or whatever the YouTube channel is. Every frame and artwork. I don't know.
Set it up where one movie plays on my left monitor and it comes through my left earphone, and one on my right monitor and that comes through my right earphone, and I watch and listen to two movies at the same time.
No, I was gonna dare you to get into cinematography, but maybe don't.
I mean, I do watch a lot of like documentary. I watch more on doing cinematography and like making documentaries and like the techniques and stuff, again, because of work. Like that stuff has become more and more interesting to me. And I guess I would say that plays a big portion into it too, is I get a lot of value from learning things. So I also would rather watch something that I can learn something from than play a video game. Now, granted, I understand, like, I know I've learned a lot of things from video games over the course of my life, but I'd rather spend my free time watching like a video on making a documentary and how these things affect the mood of a scene that's shot, and why, or how to light a specific scene, or what camera is the best for this style of, like, that stuff is interesting to me. So I spend a lot of time watching that.
That stuff is very cool, and it's honestly one of the things that I don't know, I feel like I come off as a little pretentious sometimes. And that may be one of the things lately, is that I'm starting to like realize the art form of television and movie making.
Oh, I mean, there's so much that goes into it that people don't realize.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting like one notch deeper than normal people.
Yeah.
Or like I was like a year ago, and it makes me come off as pretentious. I don't want to be.
No, I just think critical thinking about those things is stuff that people don't do, and I think once you set yourself in that frame of mind where you can ask questions, not even just about the specifics of that piece, but like the process behind making it, I think that's what sets you up into that platform to start enjoying things in a different way.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a positive to it, but it still feels embarrassing. And, a podcast where I talk about myself for an extended period of time, probably not helping that. So let's end it.
Yeah, okay. He said, I can't take this anymore. I'm starting to feel too pretentious. Let's just cut it off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll definitely like to give ourselves, or give some acknowledgments out. Josh Wardle, the original creator of Wordle, and Freddie Meyer, the creator of QotS. If you enjoyed this podcast, or if you play QotS and you enjoy the game, you can find him at QotS on Twitter. And if you really do enjoy playing it, you should consider buying him a coffee. He uses the money that people donate to help fund making the game better and increasing the bandwidth on the site, as it is ever growing, the amount of people that are going onto it. You can also find us on all of our social media platforms. On Twitter, we're Quord on the Street. That's QUORD on the Street. On Instagram, at Quord on the Street. YouTube.com/Quord on the Street. If you're listening to us or watching on there, drop us a like, maybe subscribe. If you have anything interesting to say or any suggestions on how we can improve the content, please leave us a comment. If you are listening on Apple Podcast or any podcast platform that allows, please give us a comment on anything that we might be able to improve, or just if you have any questions or comments on something we talked about in this episode.
Yeah, any way that we can improve or deprove. Tell us ways to get better and worse, please.
And you can get a hold of us on our personal Twitter accounts. I am at I'm Scuzzy, IMSKUZZEY.
Get the word out. Fill out the underscore.
And with that, I believe that is the end of the episode. And we will leave you with one last phrase of encouragement, and that is to get the cord out.